Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of the Flying Goat Farm podcast. Today I'm taking on slow fashion. Can it save the planet? What is it? And thinking about how to achieve that slow fashion in our everyday lives. Before we get there, here's what's happening on the farm. So if you've been following me on Instagram or Facebook, and you know that I've been working on a no Rhinebeck sweater because there's no Rhinebeck this year. And so I have just in the last 5 minutes cut apart my sweater. I did a color work sweater cardigan in the round with a steek in it. I then just an hour ago put the crochet part of the steek in, and then I cut it up the center. It looks fantastic. My next step is to stabilize all those little fringy ends under a ribbon and put the buttons on and work on some buttonhole loops. I think I'm just going to put in loops, not a whole button band. So I'm pretty excited about that. Rhinebeck to 2020 is now virtual, and it starts a week from yesterday. So I am quite sure that my Rhinebeck sweater will be done in time. This is the fastest I've ever done a sweater in my whole entire life. And in fact, usually they take me about a year to make a sweater. Now, some of those sweaters have been like all cable all over. So yeah, they've been more complicated than this one was, but still, I'm excited. So now I'm excited about finding something else to do, another color work or something with the steek in it, maybe something that is not hand woven, not hand spun, so that it doesn't take me 4 years to go from animal to fleece to yarn to sweater. I also have a beautiful photograph showing here that was taken by my friend Kyle, who came out this week and took photographs of the animals and some of me too. We had a really good time on Wednesday, and this picture of these goats and chicken are just too cute for words. So that's what's happening on the farm. So let's get to it. So where did slow fashion come from? It really kind of came out of the slow food movement that started a while ago. And the slow food movement envisions a world where all people can access and enjoy food that's good for them, that's healthy, that is good for the planet. So it isn't made with herbicides and pesticides. It isn't full of fat and high fructose corn syrup and salt and those kinds of things. And it really is about cooking good, healthy, wholesome food in your own kitchen. And the approach that I took from their website is, they're looking for good quality, flavorful, healthy food. The production does not harm the environment. That would mean, organically grown or organically tended as we do. We're not organically certified, but we treat our vegetables that way and fruit, and that it's fair, that it's accessible to consumers, and that the producers get paid for what they are doing. And aside from our topic today, this philosophy is really helpful to all of us and healthy for all of us. And what I've continue to say over the past few years is get to know your farmer. Go to the farmer's market. Go to a farm store. If you're listening to me because you're local to me, there are farms all over Frederick County, Howard County, Anne Arundel, Baltimore County that are open, and they have vegetables that they've grown on their own property or their friends have grown on their own property. They have meat that you can buy that's healthy and grow, from animals that were truly loved and tended. Especially now when you're looking at, what's happening in big industrialized food plants with this pandemic and everything, it's more and more important to, to get another source of food than just the supermarket, just to be on the safe side. That's all I'm saying. So slow fashion, again, it's the awareness, it's adding awareness, and it's taking into consideration the processes that are used in making the clothing. It's focused on sustainability. So, if you're going to buy your clothing because you don't sew, you don't knit, you don't crochet, that's fine. But it's talking about buying higher quality goods that are going to last you a long time. Buying a nice wool coat or wool suit that's going to last you a while. Styles that are classic, you can always make them more trendy by adding accessories. But the point is to buy a wardrobe or make a wardrobe or consider a wardrobe that is classic, timeless, and that you are going to use and wear for some time. I have, just thinking of that, I have this wonderful wool coat that my friend Eileen gave me. It is it's a full length coat, and it's wool, and in vertical stripes, there's also velvet. And it was made for her in Paris, and it had to be made for her in the 50s, I want to say. So we're talking about, it's a 50-year-old coat. It is the most beautiful thing. It has lasted all this time in really good order. There's a couple of minor fixes that I need to make on the lining. There's some holes in the lining, but that's of course going to be where you have your wear. It still fits me, which is pretty exciting, but it's one of those big duster coats that you can see Audrey Hepburn wearing or something like that. And every time I wear it, I think of her. And so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, is, having classic pieces that never go out of style, that are really, really well made, that you can mend if you need to. So if you're listening to me because you're a customer of mine, then I want to say that slow fashion is perfect for us yarn lovers. Whether you are a knitter or a weaver, you can make a lot of your own pieces in that wardrobe. We make artisan handmade clothing every day. Like I was just saying about my no Rhinebeck sweater. That sweater will last a long time. I mean, I even think about the first sweater that I ever knit. I have to say that I probably knit 7 years ago. I still love it. I still wear it. It's timeless. It's all mohair, so it can be a little bit itchy, but it's a timeless piece. And also with this slow fashion and with Fibershed movement, which I'll be talking about in a minute, it's also a push to look for things that are locally grown, things that are ethically made. Working with, if you're going to buy from companies who have fair trade lines. If you're going to buy from a company, look for those lines that have some kind of rebate program, or that where you can bring back your clothes and they mend them and resell them, kind of a deal. I think Eileen Fish does that. Patagonia does that. LL Bean is famous for resoling your shoes and weatherproofing your jackets and things like that. So buying from companies like that can really help save our planet. It reduces the sheer numbers of pieces of clothing that people are buying. And so, as I talked to you in the previous fast fashion episode, the commitment is to buy fewer clothes and to buy better clothes. Mend the clothes that you love, recycle them, repurpose them, upcycle them, even thinking back to our ancestors making quilts when you cannot wear them anymore, but they're still loved textiles, making quilts out of them. I think about even though a t-shirt is not slow fashion, but I think of all those t-shirt quilts that people have made for their kids with like all the college t-shirt, the different sports t-shirts, those kind of things, and they make them into a quilt. So again, it's a piece of textile that keeps getting loved in your house. So there's also the Fibershed movement, and slow fashion merges with Fibershed when you're talking about being local. So Fibershed is you buy local textiles, yarn, or fiber. Again, it's know your farmer. This time your farmer is going to be a fiber farmer like me. And know some artisans too. If you are someone who is not a knitter, but you have friends that are knitters, you can still supply them with the local yarn and have things made for yourself. There you can buy yarn and have clothing woven for you, or have fabric woven for you that then you can sew, or you can have someone else sew for you. And for some textiles, especially here in the Mid-Atlantic area, but really all over the United States, you can't find truly local things, and I'll be talking about that in a second. So buy as local as it can be. Remember when I've been talking to you about farm yarn, when you buy from producers, you are basically letting your cash speak for you. Like I value the fact that you have farm yarn. I value the fact that you're taking care of your animals, humanely, and that you know what you're doing when you're making really nice, super squishy yarns like our Lively, our Trasna, our Synergy, our farm yarns that are just really great to use. Because the animals have been cared for, and the manufacturing process has been overseen in such a way that it's fair trade. Basically, everybody's getting paid a fair wage, and the product is super nice. Fibershed also means that you're not using commercial dyes. Now, as a dyer, everything basically that I have right now is either the natural color of the animal, or it is dyed with commercial dyes. One of my commitments this year is to make a bigger line of naturally dyed yarns so that they can be considered Fibershed. So Fibershed textiles that are dyed need to be dyed with natural dyes. And again, those dye stuffs should, and I'm air quoting, should be local, or as local as they can be. And that can reduce the number of colors that you can have. For instance, beautiful, bright fuchsia red that comes from cochineal comes from Mexico. They don't grow it here in the Mid-Atlantic. They're little beetles that live on cactus, and it's only grown there. But I have madder root that makes another kind of like an orangey red that grows in my garden. We have black walnuts everywhere that makes a beautiful brown. We have right now blooming goldenrod that makes beautiful golden colors. Things can be planted here like indigo and all different kinds of plants that I won't bore you with right now that will yield color. And one of the great things about naturally dyed colors is they all work really well together. They're just a little bit on the muted side, not pastel, but there's something about them that they just all work together really nicely in a garment or in fabric. So that's a plus. So the Fibershed movement was started just a few years ago. It was started in California by Rebecca Burgess, and she has written a book, which I've spoken about before on the podcast, called Fibershed. Her mission was to make a community of producers, artisans, and consumers that would build locally made, locally dyed textiles that people could wear. They have a really great website, and I will link to that in the show notes. Now this Fibershed movement is all over the country and also in the world. And so from that website, you can go and look and see what Fibershed is near you in your area. In our area of the DMV, there are 3 Fibersheds started. There's the Chesapeake Fibershed, which is it's 150 miles around DC. So it's Virginia, some parts of West Virginia, Maryland, maybe even parts of Delaware might be in that too. And so that's called Chesapeake Fibershed. There's a West Virginia Fibershed, so that's starting a little bit to our west. And there's a Sligo Creek Fibershed, and all of these are in the process of gearing up. None of them are quite set up totally as much as the California one is, mostly because they've had a big head start. And also because it's a lot of work to start something new like this. Again, the purpose of these Fibersheds is to match producers with fiber artisans, and then what the local artisans make can then go to local consumers. So if you're interested, I urge you to go to that Fibershed website. It's fibershed.org, and you can look up the affiliates in your area, and they also have educational programs. They have lots of good information on there. And there's lots that all of the Fibersheds are missing. And what I mean by that is that the United States no longer has the capacity to mill and to weave. Well, first to mill, they don't have the capacity to take cotton and make it into cotton yarn and then to weave it into cotton fabric. On the West, there's nobody that does anything with cotton. I think in the East here, North Carolina still has maybe one mill running, but we're losing the capacity. So there's some textiles that we just don't have access to really on a local or Fibershed centric kind of a way. Specifically like local cotton and linen, and there is a resurgence in hemp, and most of the cotton is being grown in the South still. There's a lot of cotton being grown in the Southwest as well. The linen that's being grown is up in the Northeast area, and hemp is making a resurgence in like the North Carolina area. So, crossing like my present with my past, like my aunts and uncles used to work on those mills in North Carolina, and they worked on the lines that actually made the fabric. They closed down that part of the mills in the 60s. That's what my aunt has told me. And then they were switched into the clothing manufacturing side rather than being on the weaving side. So, they used to make all that stuff pretty close here, but not anymore. And right now for me, I am actively searching out as local as I can be textiles, because we need those cottons and linens and even hemp for our hot weather months. I mean, you can't wear wool here 12 months out of the year. And we have a gracious plenty of wool and alpaca producers, cashmere producers, Angora rabbit producers. We have lots of animal fibers that are available. We have lots of mills in our area that can handle animal fibers, but we are really lacking in the plant fiber milling capacity. So I'm looking for those. I'm also looking for linen from that New England Fibershed or someplace like that. I have not been totally successful yet, but I'm looking, and I'll keep you posted. The good news is that there are a lot of organically grown cotton fabrics and clothing that are available online. I'll post those on the show notes. What I post is just kind of what I Google. I don't have an agreement with anybody. I don't make any claims about whether they're good or not. I think most of these organic clothing, cotton clothing places are working in a fair trade kind of a way as well. So we do have something that we can go to because, we don't have to switch immediately into this arena. The other part of the Fibershed is talking about soil to soil. And this, again, is a little bit out there for most people. I'm just going to tell you about it. I have not done this yet, but I am working towards doing something along these lines. I just had to retire a set of sheets, and they're 100% cotton. So I'll tell you about that in a minute. But if you are wearing 100% natural fiber clothing, or if you have 100% cotton sheeting, any of those things they've come from the soil, right? So after you wear them, use them, love them, reuse them, mend them, upcycle them, even make them into a quilt, then you can put those clothes back into a compost pile. I have not tried it yet. But basically, your well-used and well-loved natural fiber clothing will then give the carbon and nitrogen back into the soil, and they will compost. Don't do this with anything that has lycra in it or polyester or anything man-made, because if you've been following this podcast, in episode number 10, I talked about how, that our polyester clothing that's ending up in landfills is just sitting there. It doesn't rot. It doesn't break down. So this is only for things that are 100% fiber, 100% cotton, 100% wool, that kind of thing. And so, yes, if we do these things, are we saving the planet? I think so. If we commit to the slow fashion movement with the intent to move more and more into the Fibershed model, then we can save at least our little part of the planet in our little way. And that's what it takes, right? Starting with, baby steps, and then maybe convincing your next door neighbor or your friend at, knitting group, oh, hey, I'm doing this. Does anybody want to join me? Do you know that soil is the biggest carbon sink, or that's the technical term, or carbon bank in the carbon cycle? So what they mean by that, we have carbon now in our air, right? We have the carbon that in the lithosphere, in the rocks that we're taking out to make gasoline. We have carbon that's in the dirt, which again is our biggest source of carbon. There is carbon in the oceans, in the air. So if we take the carbon and nitrogen from the soil and it goes into the plants, and then the animals eat the plants, and then they eliminate, you know what I mean? They eliminate and that stuff becomes carbon and nitrogen again and enriches the soil. So the better we make our soil, the more productive those plants will be. So it's a great way to, again, be saving our planet a little bit at a time. If we take it further and then compost those, whatever clothing that we have that's 100% natural, then all of the carbon that we took out of the soil is ultimately being put back in the soil. We're not really losing anything. This whole concept is called regenerative agriculture. And research shows that if more farmers practiced it, it would solve much of our climate crisis. There's lots of statistics about this. It's really confusing to me. It's kind of off topic from what I want to talk about. If you're interested, look it up. It's great to think about. It's great to talk again with your local fiber farmer. Are you doing things like this? Are you composting everything back into the soil? That kind of thing. Yeah, we can work a little bit at a time on solving this climate crisis just through what we wear. Think about that. Okay, so what can you do today, and what can you do this year? So I can only talk about me. And first of all, what I want to do is to take stock of what I already have that's slow fashion. And I've kind of done that, like the garments that I've made, the garments I love and continue to wear through the years, those that I'm willing and able to mend. And that would be your step as well. Especially looking at those that you can continue to wear and mend them. Like I was saying, that beautiful Parisian duster that I have from Eileen. Secondly, we need to start taking care of our garments better. And when I say better, I mean wash them in cold water, wash them in better soap, and store them properly. And when I mean better soap, I mean don't get the Gain that smells really good. That's my problem. My next purchase, when I'm out of my Gain that smells really good, it's on to those detergents that don't have added fragrances in them. Again, those fragrances can be toxic to people. And store them properly so that, fold your sweaters so that they don't hang out of, they don't get out of fitting well. I'm not thinking of the word. That happens to you too, right? And third, when you need to buy clothing, look for organic, look for ethical, look for fair trade. And I'll put some of those links in the show notes. Those are the easy things that you can do right now, I think, and I can do right now without really having to make any big commitment. Here's the bigger commitment, the wardrobe project. So again, this is based on Rebecca Burgess's project, and what she wanted to do was to make a wardrobe that was a fully Fibershed wardrobe. She realized pretty soon in that she could not do it by herself, and so she got other artisans to help, specifically felters who could felt wool fabric to make a heavier wool coat, things like that. But here's the things that I can make and that I have made: sweaters, vests, socks, hats, gloves, mittens, shawls, scarves. You can make purses, right? You can make belts. You can make a lot of different accessories. You can make necklaces, all kinds of things like that. Those are pretty easy to do in a Fibershed way. What I can't or won't do is, come on, underwear. I do not want wool underwear. I don't know about you. Shoes and boots. We are fiber farmers out here. I'm not going to have handmade shoes that I wear out to do the chores and muck the barns. I'm just not. And like a parka that's down-filled that I can wear for our cold winters. Those things I'm not going to do. I will However, look for better sources of those instead of just looking at what is the cheapest thing that I can get. I know for like my chore boots, those things last like 4 years. And could they be mended after 4 years? I'm not sure, because again, there's a lot of plastic involved in those. But that's something that I can look into to see if there's any way to mend them. And what I have to look for is like cotton and linen for summer weather that is USA made. Haven't found it yet. I have started to do some linen clothing, but the linen was made in China, but I'm sewing it. I found it at Joann's. I was surprised, 100% linen, gorgeous stuff, and just making some really simple pieces that all work together. And you could do that too. Yeah, it's a commitment. It really is a commitment, but you don't have to do it all at once. I think it's fine just to make progress towards that goal. And that is my intent, to make progress in the coming year. You know, I'm proud of myself. I knit 2 sweaters this year, and that is like unheard of for me, like I said at the very beginning. And both of them are farm yarns. The one is 100% mohair for my animals, and the one that I just finished that's hand spun as well is 100% wool for my animals. That one was dyed with acid dyes. So it isn't technically a Fibershed garment, but it's fully local. And my other intent is to do more naturally dyed yarns so that I can have a line of yarns that's specifically Fibershed. And they're going to be beautiful. So, who wants to join me? Because it's always more fun when there are more people involved, right? And I would love to have some of you join me on the project. And it's just what I'm asking you to commit to is to make one garment that's local and naturally dyed or naturally colored. Like, you know, we have some great charcoal-y kind of yarn. We have some nice brown mohair that would be great for a sweater. And of course, you can look at other local farmers that are in our area. And like I said, I will be doing some naturally dyed as well. Probably in November and December, I'll start doing that. I've been collecting my black walnuts, so I'll have some nice deep browns to make. So if you're interested, comment on the podcast, shoot me an email. I'm going to start, I haven't done it yet, but later today, which is Friday the 8th, and this is going to drop on Monday. So by the time you are listening to this, I will have started a Facebook group under my Facebook page where we can share our progress in the coming year. And like I said, I would love to have people join me. Is there a consequence if you don't get it done in a year? No. Life happens, right? We have no idea what this coming year is going to be. But it'd be great to just share our progress, make a commitment for, one Fibershed kind of garment this year. And until I see you again in person or I see you virtually, happy making.